right. Today we're cracking open a book that asks a truly radical question, one that could shake up everything we think we know about our own history. It suggests that our timeline of the ancient world might be off, and not by a little bit, but by entire centuries. So, to really get our heads around this, we need to start with an idea from the brilliant mathematician Carl Friedrich Gauss. He basically said that astronomy is our anchor. It's the one thing that keeps our timeline of history from just floating away into pure guesswork. And that's the whole basis of something called scientific chronology. For hundreds of years, astronomers have used ancient records of eclipses to build a solid timeline. It's a clever idea, right? You use the perfect clockwork of the universe to bring order to the messy, chaotic records of human history. But what if there's a spanner in the works? What if that cosmic clock is ticking away perfectly, but we've been reading the historical records all wrong? The book we're looking at, Mario Arndt's Astronomy and Chronology critique, kicks things off by pointing to a really significant anomaly in the data. You see, to figure out exactly where on Earth an ancient eclipse was visible, you need this little correction factor called delta T. Think of it this way. Our planet's spin isn't perfect. It wobbles and slows down over time. Delta T is the fudge factor that accounts for that drift. It's absolutely crucial. And here's where it gets weird. For the last 400 years or so, where we have great telescope data, delta T is nice and predictable. But when you go back further to make the ancient eclipses fit into the official historical timeline, that delta T value has to jump all over the place in ways that physics just can't explain. So this creates a massive problem. Even with these bizarre corrections, most ancient eclipse reports still don't actually fit the official story. In fact, as one historian points out, more than 80% of them are either vague or just plain wrong when you try to match them up. Which leaves us at a crossroads, really. Do we just accept that the Earth's rotation did some incredibly strange, physically impossible things in the past? Or is it possible that the historical timeline itself is what's broken? Well, faced with that dilemma, the author proposes something completely different. Instead of trying to bend the laws of physics to fit history, what if we tried to shift history to fit the laws of physics? So the book asks this simple question. What if we just assume physics works the same way it always has? That the Earth's spin has slowed down in a smooth, predictable way, just like our modern data shows? And what if the dates assigned to those historical records are the things that are actually wrong? So the method is pretty straightforward. First, you assume that delta T value is stable. Then, you use the fact that eclipses repeat in predictable cycles to hunt for different dates that might be a much better fit for what the ancient writers actually described. And then you just see if any consistent patterns emerge. And when you do this, the results are, well, they're pretty astonishing. This method ends up painting a completely new and frankly shocking picture of history. Let's take a look. Okay, take the super famous eclipses that Thucydides wrote about during the Peloponnesian War. The official dates have always been a bit dodgy. They don't quite match his descriptions. But the author finds another set of eclipses, ones that happened exactly 1,123 years later, that are a perfect fit for everything Thucydides said he saw. And here's the thing, it's not a one-off. The author finds these consistent time shifts again and again, leading to a truly mind-bending idea that the historical periods we think of as happening one after the other actually happened at the same time. So in this new model, Greek history gets shoved forward more than 1,100 years. That means the Parthenon was being built around the same time as the first Viking raids. Roman history gets shifted by almost 800 years, making the Colosseum a contemporary of the great Gothic cathedrals. Just let that sink in for a moment. So, if we entertain this idea, even for a second, what does it actually mean? Well, the consequences are enormous, and it creates some parallels in history that are, frankly, shocking. The book points out these strange echoes in the historical record. For instance, you have the plague of Justinian in the 6th century, and then the Black Death in the 14th. You have a Roman warm period and a medieval warm period. The author suggests these aren't separate events at all, but duplicates of the same events recorded in different histories, separated by, you guessed it, about 780 years, the exact phantom period proposed for Roman history. So where does it all converge? The author points a finger directly at the 12th century as being this crucial turning point. This is the time when things like Roman-style architecture suddenly reappear in Europe, and all the lost works of Greek philosophers like Aristotle are suddenly rediscovered. So the argument is that this sudden cultural explosion wasn't a rebirth or a renaissance at all. It was just a continuation. That knowledge wasn't being rediscovered from 1,000 years ago, it was being transmitted from a culture that was contemporary, a culture that was only later artificially thrown back into the distant past by historians. Ultimately, this book throws down a fascinating gauntlet. It really forces you to question the very anchors of our timeline. And it leaves you with this one final provocative thought. What if our story is much shorter, more compressed, and more interconnected than we ever dared to believe?